Ryan Mitchell wiped the grease from his hands and stared out the window of the space station. He had been working on Titan's orbital platform for 3 years now. The job was simple enough. Fix the broken machines, keep the air flowing, make sure nothing exploded. It was honest work, and Ryan liked it that way. Outside the thick glass, Saturn filled half the sky. Its rings glowed in the distant sunlight like a crown made of ice and dust. Below the station, Titan's orange clouds swirled slowly. Ryan never got tired of the view. Back on Earth, he used to rescue people from broken ships in the asteroid belt. That job had been dangerous. This one was supposed to be safe, but nothing in space stays safe for long. The alarm started screaming at 2 a.m. station time. Ryan jumped out of bed and ran to the control room. Other workers crowded around the screens, pointing and shouting. Alex Chen, his best friend and sometimes co-pilot, grabbed his arm. "Look at that," Alex said. "What is it?" On the screen, something burned through space. It wasn't one of their ships. It wasn't anything human at all. The vessel looked like it had been grown instead of built. Smooth curves covered in strange markings that seemed to glow. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "It's alien," someone whispered. "It's really alien. The ship was in trouble." Even Ryan could see that. It spun out of control, trailing debris and something that looked like blue fire. As they watched, the alien vessel slammed into a field of ice and rock floating near Titan. The impact tore the ship apart. Commander Kyle Martinez pushed through the crowd. He was a big man with gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. "Everyone back to your posts," he ordered. "We're not getting involved. Earth will send instructions. Until then, we observe only." Ryan nodded along with the others, but his eyes stayed on the screen. Something bothered him. He watched the wreckage of the alien ship, and then he saw it. A small pod, barely bigger than a car, had shot out from the main vessel just before impact. The little pod tumbled through space, heading straight for Titan's atmosphere. "There," Ryan pointed. "Someone got out." Alex pulled up the data on the pod. "Life signs. Faint, but there. It's alive, whatever it is." Commander Martinez shook his head. "Not our problem. We wait for Earth." "But sir," Ryan said, "that pod is going to burn up in 15 minutes. Maybe less." "I said we wait." The commander's voice was cold. "That's an order, Mitchell." Ryan watched the pod fall. Inside his head, a war raged. He thought about the rules, about following orders, about not causing problems. But he also thought about the asteroid belt, about all the times he had pulled people from dying ships. He thought about the promise he made to himself years ago. Never leave anyone behind if he could help it. The life sign on the screen was getting weaker. "I'm sorry, sir," Ryan said. He turned and ran. "Mitchell, get back here." "That's an order." The commander's shouts followed him down the corridor, but Ryan didn't stop. Alex ran beside him. "You're going to get fired," Alex said. "Maybe arrested?" "Probably," Ryan agreed. "You don't have to come," Alex grinned. "Are you kidding? First contact with aliens? I'm not missing this." They reached the shuttle bay in less than 2 minutes. Ryan's supervisor, Greg Palmer, stood in their way. Greg was the kind of man who loved rules more than people. "You're not taking that shuttle," Greg said. "I'll have you locked up." Ryan looked at the older man. "There's someone dying out there. I can save them. It's not human. It's not our responsibility." "That's exactly why we should help," Ryan said quietly. He pushed past Greg and climbed into the shuttle. Alex followed. Greg shouted threats and warnings, but they ignored him. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Ryan's hands moved across the controls like he had been born to fly. The bay doors opened and they shot out into space. Behind them, the station's communications crackled with angry voices ordering them to return. Ryan turned off the radio. "How much time?" he asked. Alex checked the sensors. 12 minutes until the pod hits Titan's atmosphere. Once it's in, we can't follow. The shuttle can't handle that kind of heat and pressure. Then we better hurry." Ryan pushed the engines to maximum power. The shuttle shook and groaned, but it flew faster than it was supposed to. They raced through the darkness of space, weaving between chunks of ice and metal debris from the alien ship. Each piece that flew past could have torn them apart, but Ryan trusted his instincts. He had done this before, just never with so much at stake. The alien pod came into view. It was spinning wildly, completely out of control. Strange lights flickered across its surface, getting dimmer with each rotation. Ryan could see now that it was damaged. Part of the hull had been crushed in the collision. 7 minutes, Alex warned. Ryan lined up the shuttle with the spinning pod. His fingers danced across the controls, matching the pod's rotation. It was like trying to catch a spinning top while riding a motorcycle. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but he didn't wipe it away. He couldn't spare even a second. Activating magnetic grappler, Alex said. The grappler shot out, trying to lock onto the pod. It missed. The pod's material didn't respond to their magnets the way human metal did. Again, Ryan ordered. They tried a second time. The grappler bounced off. 5 minutes. Ryan, we have to go. We're getting pulled in by Titan's gravity. Ryan's mind raced. The magnetic system wouldn't work. But the pod had been hit by debris. That meant there were dents, places where human metal had been embedded in the alien hull. He just had to find them. I'm going manual, Ryan said. He switched off the automatic systems and grabbed the physical controls for the shuttle's mechanical arm. The arm extended, its metal fingers opening wide. This is crazy, Alex muttered. If you miss, the impact could tear the arm clean off. Then I won't miss. Ryan waited for the exact right moment. The pod spun. He watched its rotation, counting in his head. 3, 2, 1. Now. The mechanical arm shot forward and grabbed the damaged section of the pod. Metal screamed against metal. Alarm shrieked throughout the shuttle. The impact nearly ripped them apart, but the arm held. The pod was secured. Got it, Alex shouted. Pull us out now! Ryan fired the engines at full reverse. The shuttle groaned and shuddered. For a terrible moment, it seemed like they would be pulled into Titan's atmosphere anyway. The heat shields began to glow. Temperature warnings flashed red. Then slowly they began to rise. Away from Titan, away from death. Ryan let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. They had done it. The life sign is still there, Alex said, checking the sensors. Weak but stable. Whatever's in that pod, you just saved its life. Ryan looked at the captured pod through the shuttle's window. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface. Inside was a living being from another world. A being he had risked everything to save. Let's get back to the station, Ryan said, and hope they don't throw us in the brig. As they flew back toward the orbital platform, neither of them knew that they had just changed human history forever. All Ryan knew was that someone had needed help, and he had given it. That was enough for him. That had always been enough. The shuttle docked with the station 40 minutes later. Ryan and Alex carried the alien pod through the airlock. A crowd waited for them, faces showing fear and curiosity in equal measure. Commander Martinez stood at the front, his expression dark with anger. You're both fired, the commander said, and you'll be lucky if that's all that happens. You violated direct orders and endangered this entire station. Ryan set the pod down gently. Sir, we can argue about that later. Right now, whatever is inside this pod is dying. We need medical help. Dr. Lauren Hayes pushed through the crowd. She was the station's chief medical officer, a small woman with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. Move, she ordered. Everyone out of the way. Get that thing to the medical bay. Now. They rolled the pod into the medical bay on a transport cart. Dr. Hayes circled it, studying the strange symbols in the smooth material. How do we open it? She asked. Ryan examined the pod's surface. His hands moved across it, feeling for seams or buttons. The symbols pulsed weakly under his touch, responding to his body heat. He pressed harder, and suddenly a section of the pod's wall turned transparent like glass. Inside lay a child. At least, it looked like a child. The being was small, no bigger than a human 5-year-old, but its skin was blue like crystal or deep water. The child's eyes were closed, and its chest barely moved. Strange clothing covered its body, woven from material that seemed to be alive. Symbols on the clothing flickered in time with the child's faint heartbeat. My God, Dr. Hayes whispered. It's just a kid. The crowd pressed closer, trying to see. Commander Martinez ordered them back. Everyone out except medical personnel. This is a quarantine situation until we know more. But Ryan stayed. When a security guard tried to remove him, Dr. Hayes shook her head. He stays. He brought the child here. Maybe it will help if a familiar presence is nearby. They spent the next 2 hours trying to help the alien child. Nothing worked. Human medicine was useless. Their scanners couldn't make sense of the child's biology. Dr. Hayes tried everything she could think of, but the child's condition only got worse. The blue skin faded to gray. The symbols on the clothing stopped pulsing. We're losing it, Dr. Hayes said, her voice breaking. I don't know what to do. Ryan stood beside the pod, staring at the dying child. He felt helpless. All the risk, all the effort, and it was going to die anyway. He reached out and placed his hand on the pod's surface, wishing there was something, anything he could do. The symbols under his palm flared brightly. Ryan jerked his hand back in surprise. The symbols faded. He put his hand back and they lit up again. "Brighter this time, Doctor," Ryan said slowly. "I think it responds to heat, body heat." Dr. Hayes grabbed thermal blankets from the medical supplies. They wrapped the child carefully, covering it completely. Then Ryan placed heat lamps around the pod, the kind they use to keep equipment warm in the cold of space. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then slowly, color began to return to the child's skin. The gray faded, replaced by that beautiful crystal blue. The symbols on its clothing pulsed again, stronger now. The child's chest rose and fell more regularly. "It's working," Dr. Hayes breathed. "Keep those lamps steady." Ryan didn't move from his position by the pod. He watched the child like a guardian, making sure the temperature stayed constant. Hours passed. The medical staff rotated out, getting rest, but Ryan remained. Alex brought him coffee and food, which he barely touched. Finally, near dawn station time, the child's eyes opened. They were golden. Not yellow or brown, but actually gold, like liquid metal. They focused on Ryan with intelligence that seemed far too old for such a young face. The child stared at him for a long moment, then made a sound. It was musical, like bells or water running over stones. The station's computer system came alive. The AI had been recording every sound the child made, trying to build a translation program. Now it spoke in a mechanical voice, analyzing, comparing to known languages. Building translation matrix, the child spoke again, more words this time. The musical sounds filled the medical bay. Everyone held their breath waiting. The computer spoke. Translation confidence low. Possible meaning, where am I? Where is Mother? Ryan leaned closer to the pod. You're safe, he said gently, even though he knew the child couldn't understand. We're helping you. The golden eyes studied him. The child raised one small hand and pressed it against the inside of the pod, right where Ryan's hand rested on the outside. The symbols between their palms glowed brightly. Something passed between them in that moment. Not words exactly. More like feelings. Understanding. The child was scared and alone, but it recognized that Ryan meant no harm. It sensed that he had saved it somehow. The child's small voice spoke one more word. The computer translated, friend. Ryan smiled. Yeah, kid, friends. Over the next 3 days, the child grew stronger. Dr. Hayes discovered that its biology was based on crystalline structures rather than carbon like humans. The child needed warmth and certain types of light to survive. They kept it comfortable and safe, and slowly it began to trust them. The computer's translation program improved hour by hour. They learned the child's name was Melissa. She was curious about everything, asking endless questions about humans and their world. Ryan spent every free moment with her, teaching her about Earth and humanity while learning about her people in return. Melissa came from a civilization called the Luminar Empire. They had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Her people valued life above all else because long ago they had nearly destroyed themselves in terrible wars. Now they lived by a simple code: protect the innocent and honor those who help others. But when Ryan asked about her family, Melissa would become quiet and sad. She spoke of her mother with love and longing. She had been traveling with her mother when their ship was attacked. Her mother had put her in the escape pod and sent her away to safety. Melissa didn't know if her mother survived. Ryan tried to comfort her, but words seemed useless. All he could do was stay close and let her know she wasn't alone. On the 4th day, the station's long-range sensors detected something impossible. Ships were approaching, dozens of them, and they were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Commander Martinez called an emergency meeting. Ryan stood in the control room with the senior staff watching the sensor displays. The alien fleet was massive, 20 enormous vessels, each one bigger than any human warship. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at. They're not showing any hostile intent, the tactical officer reported. But those ships could destroy this entire station in seconds if they wanted to. What do they want? Someone asked. As if in answer, one of the alien ships broke formation. It was smaller than the others, but still impressive. It approached the station slowly, clearly requesting permission to dock. Commander Martinez looked at Ryan. Mitchell, get the child. Something tells me this has everything to do with her. Ryan ran to the medical bay. Melissa stood at the window, staring out at the approaching ship. Her golden eyes were wide and tears ran down her blue face, but they were tears of joy. "Mother," she whispered. "My mother is here." Ryan felt a mix of relief and nervousness. He was about to meet an adult alien, not a child, but a being from a civilization that had mastered space travel long before humans left Earth. A being who would want to know what happened to her daughter. "Come on," Ryan said gently, offering his hand to Melissa. "Let's go meet your mother." The child took his hand without hesitation. Together they walked through the station corridors toward the docking bay. The entire station seemed to hold its breath. This was it, the moment that would determine humanity's future among the stars. Ryan Mitchell, a simple maintenance engineer from Earth, was about to make first contact with an alien empire. He had no training for this, no script to follow. All he had was a child's hand in his and the knowledge that he had done the right thing. He hoped that would be enough. The docking bay had never been so crowded. Every person on the station who could find an excuse to be there had shown up. Security guards lined the walls. Scientists clutched their recording devices. Even Greg Palmer, Ryan's old supervisor, stood in the back with his arms crossed. Ryan stood near the airlock with Melissa. The child bounced on her feet, unable to contain her excitement. Her golden eyes never left the airlock door. The station's speakers crackled with the sound of the alien ship completing its docking sequence. Commander Martinez stood beside Ryan, looking nervous for the first time since Ryan had known him. "Mitchell," the commander said quietly, "whatever happens in the next few minutes could change everything for humanity. Try not to mess it up." "No pressure," Ryan muttered. The airlock began to cycle. Green lights indicated successful pressure equalization. The door hissed and started to open. Everyone in the bay leaned forward, desperate to see. 4 guards came through first. They were tall beings, at least 7 feet, wearing armor that seemed to be made of living crystal. They carried no visible weapons, but something about them screamed danger. They took positions on either side of the airlock and stood perfectly still. Then she entered. Ryan had thought Melissa was beautiful, but her mother was something else entirely. The being who stepped into the bay was tall and regal, her crystalline blue skin seeming to glow from within. She wore robes that looked like they were woven from pure light, shifting through colors that Ryan didn't have names for. Above her head, structures of living crystal floated in a circle like a crown. But it was her eyes that caught Ryan's attention, golden like her daughter's but filled with an intensity that made him feel small. These were eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Eyes that held power beyond human understanding. "Mother!" Melissa cried out. She broke free from Ryan's hand and ran across the bay. The tall alien woman dropped to her knees and caught the child in her arms. She held Melissa tightly, and for a moment the powerful being looked just like any mother who had almost lost her child. They spoke in their musical language, too fast for the computer to translate. But Ryan didn't need translation to understand. He saw relief, joy, and love, universal emotions that crossed any barrier of species or culture. Finally, the woman stood, still holding her daughter. She turned to face the gathered humans. When she spoke, a device on her robes translated her words into perfect English. Her voice sounded like crystal bells, beautiful and commanding at the same time. "I am Zarathi, Princess of the Luminar Empire, Guardian of the Outer Reaches, and Protector of the Star Paths. You have shown kindness to my daughter in her darkest hour. For this you have my gratitude and the gratitude of my people." Commander Martinez stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome to our station, Princess. We are honored by your presence. I am Commander Kyle Martinez, leader of this facility." Princess Zarathi inclined her head in acknowledgement, but her golden eyes were searching the crowd. "My daughter speaks of one who saved her, one who risked his life to pull her from the fire of your world's sky. She says his name is Ryan. I would meet this person." Every eye in the bay turned to Ryan. He felt his face grow hot. Alex gave him a gentle push forward. Ryan stumbled a bit, then straightened and walked toward the alien princess. He stopped a respectful distance away and nodded, not sure if he should bow or shake hands or what. "That's me," he said. "Ryan Mitchell. I'm just a maintenance engineer, ma'am. Your daughter needed help and I was in a position to give it." Princess Zarathi studied him for a long moment. Ryan felt like those golden eyes were looking straight through him, seeing everything he was and everything he had ever done. It was uncomfortable but not frightening. Finally, something changed in her expression. Tears appeared in her eyes. To everyone's shock, the princess knelt before Ryan. Her guards shifted nervously, clearly uncomfortable with their leader showing such humility. But Princess Zarathi placed her hand over her heart and bowed her head. "Ryan Mitchell," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You saved my child's life when you had no reason to do so. You risked yourself for a stranger from another world. You asked for nothing in return. In all my long life, I have met few beings capable of such selfless honor." She raised her head and looked directly into Ryan's eyes. The moment seemed to stretch forever. Then she spoke the words that would echo through human history. The alien princess gazed at me and said, "For saving my child you shall be rewarded." Ryan felt like he should say something, but his mouth had gone dry. He managed to stammer out, "I don't want a reward. I just wanted to help." "I know," Princess Zarathi said, standing. "That is precisely why you deserve one. My people have a law ancient and sacred. Any being who saves a member of the royal family without expectation of reward must be honored. This is the debt of life, and it cannot be refused." She turned to address everyone in the bay. "Your species is young. You have barely begun to touch the stars. But in you I see something that we Luminar lost long ago and have spent millennia trying to reclaim. You still remember how to care for strangers. You still risk everything for what is right, not what is profitable." Princess Zarathi gestured, and one of her guards brought forward a crystal device. It projected images into the air, showing the history of humanity from space. Humans building their first satellites, walking on their moon, establishing colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. "We have watched you," she continued. "We have debated whether to make contact. Some of my people feared you were too violent, too divided. Others saw your potential. Today, Ryan Mitchell has answered that debate. He has shown us the truth about humanity." She looked back at Ryan. "You shall have 3 rewards. First, your people shall receive knowledge from my empire, technology and wisdom, given carefully so that you may advance without destroying yourselves as we once nearly did." A murmur ran through the crowd. Ryan saw greed flash in some eyes, wonder in others. "Second, your world shall be placed under the protection of the Luminar Empire. No hostile species shall threaten you. You will have time to grow strong at your own pace." Commander Martinez stepped forward. "Princess, we are grateful, but humanity values its independence. We cannot simply become a protectorate." Princess Zarathi smiled. "I offer protection, not control. Your governments remain your own. Your choices remain your own. I merely ensure that no one can destroy you before you are ready to stand as equals among the stars." She turned back to Ryan. "And third, you, Ryan Mitchell, shall be granted a seat on the Luminar Council. As humanity's first ambassador, you will speak for your people in galactic matters. You will learn our ways and teach us yours." Ryan's legs felt weak. "Me, but I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. I just fix machines." "Exactly," Princess Zarathi said. "You are honest. You care about doing what is right more than what is easy. These qualities are rare in any species. You will learn the rest." Melissa ran to Ryan and hugged his legs. "Please say yes," she said in improving English. "You are my friend. I want you to stay with us." Ryan looked down at the child, then at her mother, then at all the faces around him. Some looked excited. Others looked jealous. A few, like Alex, looked proud. He thought about his simple life, fixing machines and keeping the station running. That life was over now, whether he accepted the princess's offer or not. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll do it. But I'm going to need a lot of help." Princess Zarathi placed her hand on his shoulder. "You will have it. But Ryan Mitchell, there is something else you must know. Something I have not yet told your people." Her expression grew serious. "My daughter and I were not simply traveling when we were attacked. We were fleeing. There is a threat in this galaxy, ancient and terrible. We call them the Devourers. They are machines left behind by a dead civilization, and they exist only to consume and destroy." The room went silent. "The Luminar Empire has held them back for thousands of your years," she continued. "But they grow stronger. They adapt. They learn, and I have studied their patterns. In 30 to 40 of your years, they will reach this region of space. Your solar system lies directly in their path." Commander Martinez's face had gone pale. "Are you saying we're in danger?" "I am saying that you will face a choice," Princess Zarathi replied. "You can stand with us as allies and equals, and together we will have a chance. or you can face the devourers alone and you will fall. The choice is yours to make. Ryan felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just about rescuing a child anymore. This was about the survival of his entire species. He had pulled one alien kid from the fire, and now Earth faced a threat from beyond the stars. "We'll need time to discuss this," Commander Martinez said. "This is far beyond my authority to decide." "Of course," Princess Zarathi agreed. "My fleet will remain here while you contact your leaders. But know this, I do not make this offer lightly. The Luminar Empire does not often extend friendship to younger species. You have earned this chance through Ryan Mitchell's actions. Do not waste it." She looked at Ryan one more time. "You changed the course of history today, simple maintenance engineer. You reached out to help a stranger, and in doing so you opened a door between our peoples. Whatever happens next, know that my daughter lives because of you. I will never forget that." "My people will never forget that." Ryan nodded, unable to trust his voice. He watched as Princess Zarathi and her guards prepared to return to their ship. Melissa hugged him one more time before leaving with her mother. When the airlock closed behind them, the docking bay exploded with noise. Everyone started talking at once. Some were excited. Others were scared. A few were already planning how to profit from this contact. Ryan stood in the center of the chaos, feeling overwhelmed. Alex pushed through the crowd and grabbed his arm. "You did good," Alex said. "Whatever happens next, you did good." Ryan hoped his friend was right. Because ready or not, humanity was about to step onto a much bigger stage, and somehow impossibly Ryan Mitchell was going to help lead them there. The next 3 weeks changed Ryan's life in ways he never imagined. Earth's government sent representatives to the station immediately. Politicians, generals, corporate executives, and scientists all arrived, each with their own agenda. The small orbital platform became the most important place in human space. Ryan found himself at the center of everything. He gave the same account of the rescue dozens of times. He answered endless questions about Princess Zarathi and the Luminar Empire. Everyone wanted to know what the aliens were like, what they wanted, what humanity should do. The problem was that Ryan didn't have all the answers. He was a maintenance engineer, not a diplomat. But people treated him like he was some kind of expert on alien relations just because he had saved one child. Greg Palmer, his old supervisor, suddenly acted like they were best friends. "I always knew Ryan had potential," Greg told reporters. "I trained him myself, taught him everything about emergency procedures and thinking under pressure." Ryan wanted to remind everyone that Greg had tried to stop the rescue, but he kept quiet. Creating enemies wouldn't help anyone. The corporations were worse. Representatives from mining companies, weapons manufacturers, and tech firms all approached Ryan with offers. They wanted him to use his position as ambassador to secure favorable deals with the Luminar Empire. They offered him money, stock options, positions on boards of directors. The numbers they mentioned made Ryan's head spin. "Just imagine what alien technology could do for humanity," one executive said, his eyes gleaming with greed. "We could make everyone rich, including you, Ryan." Ryan politely declined every offer. He remembered Princess Zarathi's warning about technology, given too fast destroying civilizations. He didn't think she would appreciate humans using her gifts just to make a few people wealthy. The politicians were more subtle, but just as frustrating. They tried to control what Ryan could say and do. They wanted him to follow scripts and advance specific agendas. When Ryan objected, they reminded him that he represented all of humanity now. He had responsibilities. Only Alex and Dr. Hayes seemed to understand how overwhelmed he felt. They helped him navigate the chaos, protected him from the worst of the demands, and reminded him why he had saved Melissa in the first place. "You did it because it was right," Alex told him one night over coffee. "Don't let them make you forget that." The Luminar fleet remained at the edge of Saturn's orbit, waiting patiently for humanity's decision. Princess Zarathi sent daily communications, offering to answer questions and provide information. She never pushed, never demanded. She simply waited. Melissa visited the station several times. She was recovering well, growing stronger each day. She spent most of her visits with Ryan, following him around as he worked and asking questions about human culture. Despite everything else happening, Ryan found these visits peaceful. The child reminded him what all of this was really about. "Why do humans argue so much?" Melissa asked one day. She had been watching news broadcasts from Earth, seeing the debates about whether to accept the Luminar alliance. Ryan thought about how to explain. We're still learning how to work together. We have different countries, different cultures, different ideas about what's right. Sometimes we disagree strongly. My people used to be like that, Melissa said, long ago before the Great Awakening. We fought terrible wars. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Then we learned that protecting life was more important than anything else. That's when we started to become better. How long did that take? Ryan asked. Melissa tilted her head, thinking. Many thousands of years. But Mother says humans might learn faster. You already understand the important part. You proved that when you saved me. Ryan hoped the child was right, but watching the news from Earth, seeing the arguments and accusations, he wasn't so sure. Some people called the Luminar offer a trap. They said aliens couldn't be trusted, that humanity should stay isolated and safe. Others saw it as humanity's destiny, a chance to join the galactic community. Religious leaders debated whether aliens had souls. Scientists argued about the implications of the technology transfer. Military leaders worried about security. Through it all, Princess Zarathi remained patient. She provided detailed information about the Devourers, showing footage of battles against the machine swarms. The images were terrifying. Entire planets reduced to lifeless rocks. Civilizations that had stood for millennia wiped out in days. This is what we face, she told Earth's leaders during a conference call. This is what you will face if you stand alone. I offer you an alternative. Stand with us. Learn from us. Contribute your own unique strengths. Together we have a chance. What strengths could we possibly contribute? Someone asked. Your technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. What do we have that you need? Princess Zarathi smiled. You have what my people lost, the ability to improvise. The refusal to give up even when logic says you should. The tendency to find creative solutions to impossible problems. These are not small things. In war against the Devourers, they may be the most valuable weapons of all. Finally, after weeks of debate, Earth's United Council called for a vote. They would decide humanity's future with a simple majority. Accept the Luminar Alliance or decline it and face whatever came alone. Ryan was asked to address the council before the vote. He stood in front of cameras that broadcast to billions of people across Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. He had prepared a speech with help from advisors, but when the moment came, he ignored their script and spoke from his heart. I'm not a politician, he began. I'm not a scientist or a general. I'm a maintenance engineer who fixed broken machines on a station above Titan. But I did something that changed everything. And I think you should know why I did it. He told them about the moment he saw the pod falling toward Titan, about the choice he made to help someone who needed it, even though it was dangerous, even though it made no logical sense. He talked about Melissa, about her golden eyes opening for the first time, about the trust she placed in a stranger from another world. I didn't save her because she was a princess, Ryan said. I didn't do it because I expected rewards or technology or anything else. I did it because it was right. Because leaving someone to die when you can help them isn't the kind of person I want to be, and I don't think it's the kind of species we want to be either. He looked directly into the camera. The Luminar Empire is offering us a chance. Not just technology or protection, but friendship. They're offering to treat us as equals, even though we're thousands of years behind them. They're doing this because one human showed them what we're capable of at our best. Now we have to decide if we're going to live up to that example. Are we going to be the species that helps others even when it's hard? Are we going to face challenges together, instead of hiding from them? Or are we going to let fear control us? Ryan paused, gathering his thoughts. I know there are risks. I know some of you don't trust the Luminar. But I've met Princess Zarathi. I've spent time with her daughter. They're not perfect, but they're honest. They've shown us what's coming, and they've offered to face it together. That's more than we had before. If we accept this alliance, we have to do it right. Not as children being protected, but as partners. We bring our own strengths to the table. Our creativity, our determination, our refusal to give up. These aren't small things. Princess Zarathi believes they're exactly what's needed. He took a deep breath. I can't tell you what to vote. I'm not qualified to make that decision for billions of people, but I can tell you this. Sometimes you have to take a risk on doing the right thing. Sometimes you have to trust that helping others will lead to something better than hiding in fear. That's what I did when I went after that pod. That's what I'm asking you to do now. Take the risk. Reach out. Show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. Ryan stepped back from the podium. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then someone started clapping. Others joined in. Soon the entire chamber echoed with applause. The vote was held an hour later. It wasn't even close. By a margin of 73%, humanity chose to accept the Luminar alliance. When Princess Zarathi heard the news, she sent a message to the station. Ryan watched it alone in his quarters, exhausted from the long day. "Ryan Mitchell," her recorded voice said, "you have done something remarkable. You saved my daughter's life, and today you helped save your species. The path ahead will not be easy. There will be challenges and difficulties, but I believe humanity is ready to face them. You have shown me this is true." Her golden eyes seemed to look right through the screen at him. "Tomorrow you begin your training as ambassador. You will learn our language, our customs, our history. You will represent your people on the Luminar Council. It is a great responsibility, but I know you will not fail. You have already proven yourself worthy." The message ended. Ryan sat in the quiet of his quarters, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 weeks ago he had been nobody special, just another worker on a station far from home. Now he was an ambassador, a representative of his entire species. It was terrifying, but it was also exciting. Humanity was taking its first real steps among the stars, and somehow, impossibly, Ryan Mitchell was going to help lead them. He thought about Melissa, about her trust and her friendship. He thought about Princess Zarathi's words about humanity's unique strengths. He thought about the coming threat of the Devourers and the alliance that would face them. But most of all, he thought about the choice he had made in that shuttle, racing against time to save one small life. It had seemed so simple then. See someone who needs help and help them. Maybe, Ryan thought, that's what the future would be too. One choice at a time, one life saved at a time, one step forward at a time. Together with new friends from across the stars, humanity would find its way. It wouldn't be easy. But then again, nothing worth doing ever was. The Titan station had been transformed. What started as a simple mining platform was now humanity's gateway to the stars. New sections had been built with help from Luminar engineers. The orbital platform housed scientists, diplomats, and military personnel from across Earth's nations. It had become a symbol of what humans could achieve when they worked together. Ryan Mitchell stood at the window of what used to be the maintenance bay and was now the ambassador's office. He barely recognized the man he saw reflected in the glass. He wore formal diplomatic clothes now instead of grease-stained coveralls. His hair was cut properly, and he could speak basic Luminar without a translator. But inside, he was still the same person who had risked everything to save a falling child. Those 5 years had been hard. Learning Luminar culture, mastering their complex diplomatic protocols, and representing humanity in a council of beings who had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Ryan made mistakes, many mistakes, but Princess Zarathi had been patient, guiding him through each challenge. The technology transfer had been carefully managed. The Luminar Empire gave humanity advances in medicine, energy production, and space travel, but nothing that could be weaponized easily. They taught humans how to build better ships, how to generate clean power, and how to cure diseases that had plagued Earth for centuries. More importantly, they taught humanity how to think differently. Young engineers like Emma Rodriguez worked alongside Luminar mentors, combining human creativity with alien knowledge. The results were remarkable. Ships that neither species could have built alone, medical techniques that saved lives across 2 civilizations, art that blended human emotion with Luminar beauty. Dr. Brandon Walsh led a team of scientists studying Luminar physics. They were making discoveries that would have taken humans centuries alone, but Walsh was careful to remind his team that they weren't just copying alien technology. They were learning to understand it, to make it their own, and to add their own innovations. The Luminar are brilliant, Walsh told reporters, but they think in straight lines. Humans think in spirals. We take ideas and twist them into new shapes. That's our contribution to this partnership. Melissa had grown during those years. She was a young adult now by Luminar standards, tall and graceful like her mother, but she still visited Ryan whenever she could, and she still called him Uncle Ryan. Their friendship had become a symbol of the alliance itself, proof that different species could understand and care for each other. She divided her time between Luminar royal duties and learning about human culture. She studied Earth's history, read human literature and tried foods that sometimes made her sick but always made her laugh. Through her, many Luminar came to see humans not as primitives to be protected, but as equals with their own strengths and wisdom. But the real work was just beginning. Reports from the edge of Luminar space grew more concerning. The Devourers were advancing faster than predicted. They had consumed 3 more civilizations in the past year. The machine swarms were adapting, learning from each battle. What had once been mindless destroyers were becoming intelligent hunters. Princess Zarathi called an emergency council meeting. Representatives from all Luminar worlds gathered, along with Ryan representing humanity. The mood was grim. The Devourers will reach human space in 15 years, Princess Zarathi announced. Not 40 as we originally estimated. They are moving faster, consuming resources to fuel their expansion. We must prepare now or we will not be ready. The council erupted in debate. Some wanted to fortify the core Luminar worlds and abandon the outer regions. Others argued for a massive military buildup. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the Devourers, though everyone knew that was hopeless. Ryan listened to the arguments, remembering what Princess Zarathi had said about human strengths. Finally, he stood to speak. The council fell silent. They had learned to respect the human ambassador even when they disagreed with him. With respect, Ryan said, I think we're approaching this wrong. The Devourers are machines. They follow patterns. They're predictable, but they're also adaptive, which means they learn from what works and what doesn't. He brought up a display showing Devourer attack patterns. Look at how they move. They're efficient, logical. They always take the path that makes the most sense. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. They can't handle chaos. They can't adapt to things that don't follow patterns. Princess Zarathi leaned forward. What are you suggesting? Humans don't fight logically, Ryan explained. We improvise. We do things that don't make sense. We take crazy risks that work more often than they should. What if we built a defense that combines Luminar strength with human unpredictability? Make it impossible for the Devourers to predict what we'll do next. The council considered this. It was a new way of thinking, and it made them uncomfortable. But Princess Zarathi smiled. This is exactly why we needed humanity in our alliance, she said. Ambassador Mitchell is right. We have been fighting the Devourers the same way for thousands of years. Perhaps it is time to try something different. Over the next year, a new defensive strategy took shape. Human tacticians worked with Luminar military leaders to create battle plans that no machine could predict. They designed ships that could change their behavior randomly in combat. They trained soldiers to trust their instincts instead of following strict protocols. Earth's nations contributed everything they could. Shipyards that once built cargo vessels now produced warships combining human and Luminar technology. Training facilities sprang up across the solar system. Humanity had never been so united, and it had never been so determined. Ryan worked harder than he ever had in his life. He split his time between council meetings, training sessions, and diplomatic functions. He barely slept, but he refused to slow down. Too much was at stake. Alex had become a ship captain, commanding one of the new joint human Luminar vessels. Dr. Hayes led medical teams preparing for the casualties that would come. Emma Rodriguez designed new weapon systems that made Luminar engineers shake their heads in amazement. Every human who could contribute did so. Finally, after months of preparation, the first joint defense fleet was ready. It consisted of 50 ships, half human and half Luminar, all crewed by mixed teams. They would serve as the first line of defense against the Devourers. Ryan stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Unity. It was a human-built vessel incorporating Luminar technology, a symbol of what the Alliance had become. Beside him stood Princess Zarathi, no longer just an alien princess, but a trusted friend and ally. Melissa served as cultural liaison, moving between the human and Luminar crew members, helping them understand each other. She wore a uniform that combined elements from both species, another symbol of unity. Are you afraid? Princess Zarathi asked Ryan quietly as they waited for the fleet to depart. Terrified, Ryan admitted, but also hopeful. 5 years ago, I was just a maintenance engineer. Now I'm standing on the bridge of a starship, preparing to defend our homes alongside aliens who have become our friends. It's not what I expected from life, but I wouldn't change it. Princess Zarathi smiled. You changed more than your own life when you saved my daughter. You changed the destiny of 2 species, perhaps of many species. The alliance we have built will stand as an example to the galaxy. The bridge crew began their pre-departure checks. Voices called out in English and Luminar, working together seamlessly. Ryan watched them and felt pride swell in his chest. This was what he had hoped for when he spoke to Earth's Council 5 years ago. Not just an alliance of convenience, but genuine partnership. Melissa came to stand beside him. She had grown so much, but she still had that same trust in her golden eyes. "Uncle Ryan," she said, "do you remember what I told you when I first woke up? About how the Luminar learned to value life above all else?" "I remember," Ryan said. "You taught us something we had forgotten," Melissa continued. "That valuing life means more than just protecting our own people. It means being willing to risk everything for a stranger. You did that for me. Now we do it together for the galaxy." The ship's captain, Commander Elena Brooks, called out, "All systems ready. Fleet reports prepared for departure. Ambassador Mitchell, would you like to give the order?" Ryan looked around the bridge at human and Luminar faces, all waiting, all trusting him. He thought about that moment 5 years ago when he decided to save one child. He had made that choice because it was right, not because it was safe or logical or profitable. Now he stood here because of that choice. Two species prepared to defend their homes together, an alliance built not on fear or necessity, but on genuine respect and friendship. It wasn't perfect and there would be challenges ahead, but they would face those challenges together. "Take us out," Ryan ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans and Luminar can do when we stand together." The fleet began to move, ships of two species flying in perfect formation. As they jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward the distant threat of the Devourers, the bridge crew began a chant. It started with the Luminar in their musical language. Then the humans joined in with their own words, creating a sound unlike anything either species had made before. Ryan closed his eyes and listened. This was what he had saved when he saved Melissa, not just one life, but the possibility of two species learning from each other, the chance for humanity to become something greater by reaching out instead of hiding. He thought about his old life on the Titan station, fixing machines and following orders. That life seemed like a dream now, but in a way he was still doing the same thing. He was still fixing what was broken. He was still helping where he could. The scale had just gotten a lot bigger. Princess Zarathi touched his shoulder gently. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. For my daughter, for humanity's courage, for showing us that we don't have to face the darkness alone. We're all just doing what's right," Ryan replied. "That," Princess Zarathi said with a smile, "is precisely the point." The Unity flew through the darkness of space, surrounded by ships from two worlds. Ahead lay challenges and dangers. Behind lay everything they were fighting to protect. But in this moment on this bridge, Ryan Mitchell felt something he hadn't expected. Peace. Not the peace of an ending, but the peace of knowing he was exactly where he needed to be, doing exactly what he needed to do. He had saved one life, and that life had saved millions. He had reached out to help a stranger, and that stranger's people had become humanity's greatest allies. In a universe vast and often cruel, full of ancient empires and terrible threats, one simple act of kindness had changed everything. One person had chosen to help instead of hide, to risk instead of retreat, to care instead of ignore. And that, Ryan realized, was humanity's true strength. Not their weapons or their technology or their clever strategies. It was their stubborn, illogical, beautiful refusal to abandon those who needed help. Their insistence that every life mattered, whether human or alien, friend or stranger. The princess had been right 5 years ago. Humanity did have something to contribute to the galaxy. They had the one thing that no amount of technology could replace: the simple courage to do what was right, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous, even when no one was watching. As the stars blurred past the Unity's windows and the joint fleet flew toward an uncertain future, Ryan Mitchell smiled. He had started as a maintenance engineer who fixed broken machines. Now he was an ambassador who helped fix broken relationships between species. But really, he was still just a man who believed in helping others. That had always been enough for him. And somehow, impossibly, it had been enough to change the galaxy. The end.